All right, it is district breakdown time, and we are in the DISD district with my main man, Dixie. We are talking 5A Division Twos. Two or three questions in this one. A, Sock got knocked off the mountain. Can they climb back up and get it? B, are we doing zone play? Talk to me what we're doing there. We tried it once. I don't think we're doing it again. And then three, there's playoff spots to be had. I mean, Kimball was a mainstay in the postseason, and they're down in 4A. So talk to me about those three questions, and then maybe talk about some of these teams.
We are back to a regular district, Ward. We got 8 teams, and we're going to play 7 district games. And that means we got 3 non-district games we got to figure out for South Oak Cliff, and they got to get ready. And then they're going to have that 7 week lull. But at least we, from a planning perspective, we're going to know what every week is going to be. We're not going to have that final 2 weeks where we're all wondering, what about this and what about seating and how's that going to work? But really, if you remember last week, Ward, when we were talking about District 4, 5A, and what a gauntlet that was, we were not talking about all the good teams in that district, and we're like, lost to South Oak Cliff, lost to South Oak
Yeah.
Cliff, lost to South Oak Cliff. South Oak Cliff is now, we can pretty much pencil them in the number one. I hate to spoil the rest of the district breakdown for
Spoiler
everybody, but
alert.
ladies and gentlemen, I will be picking South Oak Cliff to win this district. So really, when I'm looking at South Oak Cliff in this district, and we're breaking it down, I got to look at how their pathway looks like. I got to look at what the journey for South Oak Cliff is going to look like, because we are now a state championship team or bust. And now I see the way that this district and redistricting has happened. Starting in round 2, you're going to have to travel. Because no matter what, no matter who, we're not going to project District 7 and District 8. Whoever it is, you're going to have to travel. You're going to either have to
Yeah.
go to Houston or East Texas or meet somewhere in the middle. So, how is that going to work for these District 5 and District 6 teams? Are they going to be in a position where traveling in week 2, how is that going to impact them? So, that's one of my big questions. I'll get back to you. You've got questions, Ward. I've got questions about all of this because we got South Oak Cliff, who lost to PNG in the state championship game. And now, it can go one of two ways. It can go, okay, we're humbled. We're going to get back in there. We're hungrier. We're going to work harder. We now know we just can't show up and win. We're going to have to keep working, because sometimes you can buy into your own hype. But another way it could have also be, did we watch the end of an era for South Oak Cliff? I tend to believe that we're going to see them continue to get better, but can they get as far? Now they got to get by PNG to get to the state semifinals. It's no longer a situation where I used to have to beat Lovejoy for the 4th time. They got to beat the team that is now in their head. And that could be good or it could be bad. South Oak Cliff, though, they got Carter Kopecki coming back. And what I really like about South Oak Cliff, and we talked about this a lot last year, you were very hard on some players last year. I think of the Northwest Eaton quarterback, where you're like, you got to quit these turnovers. We can't have turnovers out of you. Well, Carter Kopecki is a game manager. He had 18 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions last year. So Carter Kopecki understands that South Oak Cliff system, and I'm not even 100% sure, even though he is the top returning starter, that he's going to be the player who's going to get a majority of the snaps, because there's some young kids pushing up. You might see some transfers in play, but that's just what you got as kind of your default right there at quarterback. You got Damon Williams, who is coming back at running back. But last year, Ward, they graduated a lot of running backs and wide receivers. So that to me is some of the questions that they're going to have to answer. Now we're back to looking at that death row defense that Coach Kyle Ward is the coach of, and they've got that death row defense in there. You got Jaden Shelton, Amika Igori, Kamiron Morgan, and those are just some 3 of the top players. And you keep going down their depth chart, and South Oak Cliff is very heavy in defensive talent. So it might be defense that leads them back to the promised land this year, as opposed to offense.
You talk about their travel. Maybe that's why they have. I believe they're heading down to North Shore. I know they're playing North Shore. Are they heading down there? I believe they are heading down there. Maybe that's get themselves used to that travel. That because, like you said, I don't remember them traveling in the playoffs, and God knows how long. Especially since we have the state final right here. It's all in the DFW area. So now they're on the
And that's a
road.
huge problem, Ward, if you don't mind me digressing
Go
from a
ahead.
big picture point of view, because you think of how PNG effectively outdrew South Oak Cliff in the state championship game, and all of those PNG fans traveled up here, and they still outnumbered South Oak Cliff the last 2 years. Now you're looking at a situation whether they're playing in the third or fourth round, where you're going to have maybe a neutral site game at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. And how well is South Oak Cliff going to travel out there? And PNG is going to travel. So you're going to have this situation where you might have 16, 17,000, and 15,000 of them might be PNG fans. And we're talking about a big adversity. When's the last time like you said, when's the last time South Oak Cliff has really had to overcome adversity in their playoff run? That is a situation. Now you're looking at that in the third or fourth round. That to me is a big concern for South Oak Cliff. And I know, like you talked about, that's why they're scheduling North Shore. That's why they are, really pushing themselves to get out of that comfort zone and take those lessons and apply that to the playoffs, because that's a big thing that South Oak Cliff is going to have to deal with. But the rest of the district, from a storyline perspective, might actually be more fascinating because there are a lot of open questions, and there's a lot of there's now some playoff positions, playoff spots in play that haven't been there in a while. We have two teams that I would think would make the playoffs in Hillcrest and Seagoville, who have to have brand new coaches come in there and kind of redo that system a little bit. So for me, the number 2 seed in this district is Woodrow Wilson. They lost their quarterback who did everything for them, but they got Preston DeMond coming back. He scored 6 touchdowns. Luke Walsh is a really good player. John Fish is a heck of a he's a quarterback guru, but he's also a heck of a head coach, and I think he's going to have Woodrow Wilson ready for that. They did lose 59-24 to Midlothian Heritage last year, only went 4-7, but I think that I've got them kind of as my default number 2 in the district. Whereas I would have had Seagoville at number 3 coming up next. They lost their coach, and I really like that coach. He's going to go over to West Mesquite. He's going to do good things there, but Hillcrest is going to have a South Oak Cliff assistant coming in. Seagoville, we don't know who their coach is at the time that we're taping this, so they're going to have a really good coach. And they lost their all-everything last year, their running back. So they got to figure out how they're going to replace that offensive talent. I was looking at their roster. It was heavy graduation. I would say it was 90% seniors. I don't see one player coming back who made all-district honors who you can look at and go, okay, that's somebody that Seagoville can really count on. So I think Seagoville takes a step down. I think Spruce takes a step down. So I think Hillcrest, I like them at number 3. They got Asher Randall coming back at quarterback. He had over 1,000 yards last year. Jacoby Ogbona was a heck of a wide receiver target. So I really like Hillcrest to be the 3rd team out of this district. Number 4 is going to be wide open. I like Seagoville for fighting for it. I like Spruce fighting for it. And do not underestimate Adamson. They had a running back contingent last year in DJ Jackson and Anthony Salas, who rushed for between them almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in a very tough district. So Adamson can certainly be fighting for that 3rd playoff spot or for that 4th playoff spot with Seagoville and Spruce this year.
Excellent. All right, give me 1 through 8. I think I can predict 1. Can I predict 1? Is it going to be TJ? Is it going to be TJ? Is it going to be TJ?
South Oak Cliff.
Okay, 1. So go ahead.
Woodrow Wilson, number 2, Hillcrest, number 3. I'm gonna keep Seagoville at number 4, Spruce 5, Adamson 6, Samuel 7, and Thomas Jefferson to wind us down. But I'm incredibly interested, and that's why you got to tune into the Dump every single week. A little shameless self-promotion, because we're going to talk about Samuel, we're going to talk about Thomas Jefferson, and we will figure out who is progressing up to the next tier, because that's really fun for me to talk about and to watch.
Excellent. All right, next week we'll hit our last 5A Division II, District 6 5A Division II, see what teams you think might make the postseason there. All right, thanks for joining me, Diggsy. Thank you.
See you next week, Ward.